Chapter 42 Nationalist and Independence Movement after World War II. Many countries achieved their independence after World War II. Nationalism in India. In India, a group Hindi named Mohandas Gandhi began a movement of non-violent resistance and civil disobedience to improve the lives of the India's poor and gain freedom from British rule. He led the Salt March with thousands of followers in 1930 to protest the British monopoly and taxes on an essential need, salt. Gandhi's followers called him Mahatma, meaning great soul. He didn't believe in fighting and war. He peaceful ways eventually to Indian independence from British in August 1947. India was partitioned into two countries, one Hindu India and one Muslim Pakistan. As the colonial Africa, this partition divided families and left some Hindus in Pakistan and Muslims in India. Civil disobedience. The act of actively refusing to follow law, usually in the form of non-violent protest. Gandhi's peaceful protest marches, hunger strikes, and sit-in influenced and inspired later activities like Martin Luther King Jr. in the U.S., Himalayas, Delhi, British India, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, 1947. 2007, Delhi, India, Bangladesh, Bay of Bengal, Pakistan, Kashmir, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. Japan after World War II. World War II had left Japan crippled. Much of the city of Tokyo had been destroyed, and agricultural production was down. After Japan's unconditional surrender in August 1945, Allied forces led by U.S. occupied Japan to distribute food, prevent Japan from developing its military, and also to make Japan more like the West. In the spring of 1952, Allied occupation officially ended. Japan was once again independent. Beginning in 1949, by selectively borrowing Western idea and technology, Japan was able to recover, rebuild, and emerge even stronger than before. Japan soon had one of the fastest slow-growing economies after the war. Its manufacturing, trade, car industry, and electronic development were so great that its electronics industry surpassed America's by the 1970s. Tokyo became a fabulous, vibrant, exciting, and very modern city. Independence for African countries. On the African continent, the years after World War II were a time of rebellion from colonial rule. Libya became a first newly independent nation after World War II in 1951, and many countries would follow. 49 more countries, including Ghana, Kenya, and Zimbabwe, to name a few. Iwo Jima remained under U.S. control until 1968, and Okinawa remained under U.S. control until 1972. Okinawa, Iwo Jima. Some African leaders believed in Western-style capitalism, others in Soviet-style communism. Still others wanted an Africa socialism based on the tradition of community, in which wealth would be put into the hands of the people. European imperialism had divided the continent in random ways and created borders that often caused big problem when nations became independent. Pan-Africanism is the concept of uniting all African, regardless of national boundary. It led to the creation of the Organization of African Unite, OAU, in 1963, which supported African people fighting against colonialism. The OAU became an African Union (AU) in 2002, which promoted democracy and economic growth in Africa. Most of the new African leaders came from the urban middle class and had started in West. They believed Western democracy was a useful model for governing, but some new nations fell under military dictatorship or worse. The South Africa apartheid, a system of racial segregation in which South Africans were assigned one of the four groups, black, white, mixed race, or Asian. The majority black had fewer rights than the minority white. Apartheid separated white and black, and only whites, a minority of the population, could vote. Black began to protest these laws in the 1950s and 60s. In 1960, 69 people who had been peacefully protesting Africa. Protesting were killed by police in the Chap massacre. Evidence showed that most of them had been shot in the back, meaning that they weren't approaching the police or acting aggressively. Then the government arrested Nelson Mandela, the leader of African National Congress agency, in 1962. He was sentenced to life in prison in 1963. Mandela was kept in high security prison before finally being released in 1990. That's 27 years later. In 1994, when the government agreed to hold democratic election for the first time ever, Nelson Mandela became the first president of South Africa to be elected by the majority of all the people, black and white. Mandela's presidency and the work of human rights activists, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, finally helped end apartheid. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela.